Hello all. I'm going to show you a video showing devices that I designed and built when I was only 13, whilst I was at the high school. Physics being my strongest subject was quite a fascinating subject, and from that I just used the knowledge that I learned from the school to design and build these devices that I'm going to show you. It's basically an air freshener box. I'll tell you what. Yeah, what I'll do is I'll just turn the camera around and I'll just explain it a lot better and clearer. You'll get a much better idea what I'm talking about. Now, you won't know what they are until I've explained what they are. Just by looking at them, you won't really know. Now what I've done is I've built a box, basically, with a motor and a set of blades, with an air freshener in the back, a Magic 3 car air freshener, and it's got the switches and lights to tell whether the motor's on or off, and that's it, basically. Now these ones were built much later. They were built, well, this was built on 27th October 1992. I've got the dates for it at the back. That was built in October 1996. That was built, September, October 1997. And that one was built in 1998. Or I was actually converted. It was originally built in 1994, but I had changed all the interior and the circuitry and everything and just left the original case and modified it in 1998. So, really how it works, it's quite simple. This is actually the better of the ones that I've built. In total I've built about, the first one I built was back in October, it was actually the 4th of October 1988. I was just over 13, just 13 and a half, right? And that was the very first one I've built. Now I don't have the original one, that's gone. I've built a total of about, I've lost count. I've actually got a list of them. I'll go and pause this and I'll go and go through the list. Give me a minute. Right, so I've got this old list that I've written up over the years. So it's like a fan fleet list. It was based off the idea of a bus fleet list. Well, those that know me know that in a bus spotter and I have bus fleet lists. So I've done a similar thing with the fans. And the first one I built, I didn't give it a number. And it was built on the 4th of October 1988. And then I bought a second fan on June 1989. And then I started numbering fans after that. Fan 1 on the 12th of December the 12th of January 1990. I bought two fans actually, two identical ones, in January 1990. Then I bought fan 3, March 1990. Then fan 4 in May 1990. Then fan 5 in September 1990. Then fan 6, August 91. Fan 7, April 92. Fan 8 on the 27th of October 1992, that's this one. Fan 9, which was originally that one, on the 29th of September 94. Fan 10, 1st October 96, which is this one. And fan 11, which is this one here, 1st October 97, although I built it weeks before. And then fan T1 on February 1998. T1 because I put a T in front of the number to indicate that it's got a transformer built inside. Whereas all the other ones prior to that, I've got a separate power supply. So it plugs into the mains and it goes through the transformer. Transforms all the power down to a small voltage and a safe voltage actually. And then from there it goes into the fans, except this one. When I modified this one in 1998, I put a mains transformer inside it. In fact, I'll take the back off and I'll show you. Right, this fan in its current condition is not usable. It's been, a lot of these fans, in fact all of them at one time, were all stored in a cupboard. They weren't used for a while. It was only until 2019, later part of 2019, that I decided to restore this fan. Completely take this one apart and refurnish it, just completely renovate it right back to its former original condition. Whereas the other two, I reinstated these two, but I never, I didn't fully restore them. I just fixed them up and put them back into use. Now, what I've done in this, or what you're going to see later on in this video, is this fan 11. The motor was burned out on it, right? And I had to take this one apart and completely, just repair it, replace the motor. And I've recorded me doing that. So you'll get to see how it all goes together, all the interior, how it works basically. You'll get a good understanding as to how, because the principles are all the same, more or less. So you'll see the guts of this one, basically, when I take it apart. This one here, fan T1, it's got a transformer in it. Now, I built and designed this one myself, but I was much older, because when I was 13, I didn't mess around with main supply, because it was just too dangerous. So I had the transformers to transform the power right down to a safe voltage where it wouldn't be lethal. And the power output to the blades isn't lethal either. So, but this one is lethal because it's got a mains transformer in it. So the power just goes into here, straight off the mains, 13 amp socket, 240 volts, and it gets transformed with the transformer here, which is a separator. It's insulated and separated from the low voltage side. The power comes out here through all the circuitry, and it drives the motor. 2 rocker switches, mains light on, slow speed and fast speed. Switch for your slow and fast, that's your on and off. Now this fan isn't working at the moment, it needs to be taken apart and rebuilt. It's got to be done right because it's going to have mains voltage inside it. I will plan to do that at some stage. But the principle of how the fans work, now that I've got the back of this, I could give you an idea. Well, you will get a good idea when you see me taking this one apart, but it's just Magic Tree air fresheners that go into the air ducting. Now, it doesn't look very tidy because this was quite a small box and everything's crammed in it. It's not as organised as the some of the other ones because there's more components, but the air fresheners are in the air ducting basically, and the air flow gets sucked through the vents at the back. So as the air gets sucked through the back, it's going to draw the scent through the box, through the air channel and inside there. And then out through the front, out here. That's basically how it works. And it's the same principle with the rest of them. The earlier fans up to fan 8, which is this one. This was basically the last type of fan that didn't have air vents at the back. It just had a flat pack. It didn't draw any air. There wasn't an awful lot of power, so it just basically, the air freshener is inside here, and the scent builds up inside the box, and the fan blades mix the air in there. There is actually an air channel deflector built in there. The earliest fans didn't have as much built into them. They didn't have lights either. It was just a switch for on and off. Ironically, the first one that I built did in fact have a variable resistor which varied the speed. But from then on, from the first fan, I didn't have anything other than just an on and off switch. Until fan 8. Just looking at the lists. Because I'm trying to go by memory as well, but I've got stuff logged, I've written it down. I've got an original fleet list, paper's all yellow and everything, but I rewrote it because I reinstated these fans back in 2003 because they were stored for a wee while, and then I reinstated them in 2003, used them for a wee while, then I stored them in the cupboard for quite a few years, right up until 2019. But yeah, this one was kind of like, I think if I remember right, I had the first speed control on it and a light, and then it went from, but this one's a fairly basic fan, even though it's later, but then it went to fan 9, which is the same layout. You had the twin switches, mains on, slow and fast. Originally this was like that. I had a power supply because it was originally fan 9, and then when I modified it in 1998, I then put in the mains transformer and then gave it a number called T1, T for transformer, the transformer being the power supply inside. But the other fans haven't survived. This is all I've got. Unfortunately, that's just, you know, through years you wished, you look back and said, oh, maybe I should have kept them now, because I'm looking back and I wished I had. But this is the 4 that I've got that have survived. So I built in total, because the first ones, they say, you could just call them A and B because they never number them. I didn't expect to build so many. So it's basically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 fans in all that I built. But then saying that, I modified that one, and I did actually modify fan 7 and fan 5. So you could say like 11 built from scratch if you don't include the modifications that I've done. Because when I modified them, I renumbered them as well. So I kept that quiet at the time. I didn't really log that until much later. I just thought, well, I've built more fans, but I did actually reused 3 of them. But like I say, the 4 that I've survived up to now is fan 8, 10, fan 11 and fan T1. And I'm going to get this one restored at some point. These 2 weren't restored, they were just fixed up. You will see me change the motor in this one and take it all apart, and you'll get to see how I've put this one, how I've designed this one. It's got the handles and everything at each side. The other one's doing. This is actually a notice retaining strip, so you could put notes, you know, memos and that go in. These Formica strips. Just basically the on and off, fast speed, slow speed, decorative strips. Now, as you probably wonder what this is, fan 6 had this as well. Because I've been a bus enthusiast since I was a kid. I was actually given those badges, Tayside badges. I don't know if you could check that to zoom in. So I got them and I put them on my fans. So fan 8 is probably one of the best fans that I built because the wood quality is better. It just looks better and it's quieter. I made the blades in this fan as well from cardboard, and I'll plug it in. In fact, I'll switch the thing on. I'll show you. Right, so what I'll do is I'll switch it on now. So this is the one that's got the cardboard designed blades that I built. Slow speed, fast speed. And that's now drawn out the scent from the front, because it's mixing inside and drawn coming out from the front. So that's fan 8. It just purrs away quite well, and the blades are fairly light. I'm not going to take this one apart. That's all I can show you at the moment. Maybe in another video, but this one here you can see clearly. This is fan 10. Now this was built a bit more rushed, cheaper like, and sometimes needs a bump start because there's not an awful lot of power in this one. Yeah. So bump start the blades and it fires up. And as you get self-explanatory, you can see that the blades, the direction they're going in, it's drawing the air in from the back through the air holes, and the channeling that runs inside runs right through. With the centre bit there is where the wires are for the motor and the motor stand. And the air fresheners go in each side of the, well, I've cut the air freshener in half and it goes in each side of the air ducting. Now, as to say, it was a bit cheaper. This is cardboard trimming, a bit of foil, but it's aged now. It's all gone yellow because of the age of the thing. And it's a basic one. Didn't spend a lot of time and money building this one, but it did work, which is not bad. So, fan 10, you'll see that I haven't got the thing hooked up yet, but you'll see this one working when I get it all assembled and motored. Put in a new motor and you'll see an in-depth layout of this one. And that one I can't switch on because it's it needs to be taken apart, checked over thoroughly, because there's a main voltage that goes in there, and that's not been used for years, and it's kind of like, I'll have to restore that one. I'll be done in the future and I'll make another video on it, maybe progress, I'll show you that. But that's the most complex, but it's also more complex because it's a smaller box. That was just how I made it, at the time. It's good quality wood. It's hardwood. This one, fan 11, was well put together. A lot of thought went into it, but it was a bit of a flop because of the coating of the wood. I selected hardwood with this coating, and unfortunately through time, it's, as you can see, it's chipped. And the design here was maybe a bit too fragile. But it was a bit more work went into this one. But as I say, you'll see a lot more about that in the next stage of the video. And I'll try and get this thing to pick up the sound of it. It's not very noisy, but this one was noisy when it worked because it had a much more of a faster, bigger set of blades and everything in there. More power as well. Well, it's in bits, it's needing to get, just show if I could maybe show you the blades from here. I'll maybe do a video, maybe log that in when I'm taking it apart and show you that. So this has just got one switch, but it's a 2-pole switch. It goes from off in the centre, low speed, but low speed is a bit too slow because this is a low power fan. It did go faster than that, but that's the fast speed, it goes a bit quicker. It needs a bump start actually it needs to warm up as well, because it's not as much power in this one. But this has got a bit more power, so sometimes it still needs a bump start. It's the type of motor, it's not got an awful lot of torque to start with. But this one just purrs away fine, the balance is right with that, it doesn't need bump start or anything. And I say about the blades myself. What I can maybe do actually, I'll whip the back off this one then and I'll show you the blades. Right, so I've whipped the back off of fan 10 as well, because you're going to see this one getting taken apart. This video is done back to front by the way, that's been done already, but I've not got it hooked up to a power supply, not yet. So it's kind of like being videoed after I've done it. I'm doing this video in sort of different stages and I'll compile it all into one video, so the continuity is to try and keep it right. But this one, well, you saw the back off of that one. You'll see that getting taken apart. Fan 8 is this one here, and you'll see the layout inside. I will try and do if I could. So that the air freshener just hangs in the back here, and the scent accumulates inside this box, like a scent box. That just slides out, that turns and it slides off. So, but I'll leave it, I'll move it out of the road just now. The circuitry, resistors, the drop resistors for the speed control, and you can just make out the blades. In the back there, I'll try and, I don't know how clear that is, but that's blades there. So you've got a cylindrical bit, which is the hub. I'll zoom that in a bit. Yeah, that's sort of like the hub, and the blades are fitted onto that hub. And there's shaft, the motor shaft goes through there, and there's a wooden bit at the block, friction fit, and that's taped onto the inner bit of this hub, and that then locks the blade to the shaft. So it's kind of like a friction fit. It slides through a wooden cutout at the back, and then that wooden cutout is fixed to the inner part of this hub, which will then turn with the motor shaft. And the blades are on the hub, and that circulates the scent and blows it out through the opening at the front. And there's an air guide here that just keeps the wires and everything away from the blades, and it's a bit of a wind deflector because it comes, this sort of points down to the opening at the front, this cardboard bit here that I built. It's not clear because the wires are in the way, but and this has got fixing blocks at each corner, whereas that one's got a fixing, I think that's got a fixing bar going right along it. And that's just a cardboard dress strip that hides the interior, tidies it as well, blanks it a bit. Motor stand, and there's a motor stand plate that fixes to the base. But this has just got the single base on it, and the resistors sit on the base, whereas this one, fan 10, has got a double base, and resistors and circuitry under there. Same with that fan. Can't remember. Probably not, because it's a smaller one than fan 9 originally. Now this is fan 10, very similar to fan 11. It's got the air duct and air freshener on that side, the other half in there, circuit diagram on there. The other circuit diagrams for this one I've got logged, and I've got it stored away somewhere. I've written it down on papers. That's the circuitry in there with the resistors. That's the switches. Sorry, that's a switch, 2-pole switch. One there for the slow speed, one for the fast speed. This is still running. There's no voltages. It's lethal in here, by the way. So, and you could, well, you see the blades in the front. It's the wind or the air ducting, and there's nothing there. It's just the void space in there. As I say, you'll see in that when I take it apart. And I'll do a video at a later date when I get around to doing that one up. So that's the interiors of the fans. The base, it's just pretty straightforward really. See all the feet that prevent it from scratching the surfaces that they go on. And on this fan I've actually extended the sides to act as feet, and that's an insulated bit on that white is insulated. But this is clearance. I had to make clearance for the blades because I modified this fan in 1998, and the sides form the actual feet or legs, if you like. It's a very basic concept, but I built it the way I wanted it built it back at the time. And I say the first one I built was only 13. 4th October 1988. But say they were much later. The latest one, as I say, was 1990. That was the last one that I'd built, I suppose. February 1998. I haven't done anything since 1998, so that's 23 years ago. So, yeah. So that's the 4 surviving fans. So, like I say, that's just an invention that I made. I mean, it's, you know what I'm talking about now, and I want to show you me taking fan 11 apart, and you'll get to see how I designed it. Yeah, well, I designed it and thought it all and designed it and built the thing myself. As I say, I built that one in 1997, fan 11. So obviously I'd have been 22. But I did enjoy doing it. I bought other things when I was younger. I liked playing around with my dad. He's like a handyman, you know, he's an electrician for trade, and done loads of homers, and back in 1998 he was doing up the living room and had this excess of wood, so I decided, oh, I'll make use of that wood. So I came up with that idea, and I was at the same time I was at the learning physics at the high school, Minnesota High School, and physics was that's a fascinating subject. That was the one I'd done the best in, so I used that knowledge with the materials that were left over, and I came up with that idea. And I built them for, well, 10 years, over a 10-year time, up till 1998. I haven't done anything since, until, as I said, 2019, when I decided I was going to fully restore Fan 8. So I took it all apart and done a full restoration job with it. I will get around to doing it with the other 3, but I think what I'll do is get Fan T1 up and running, because the others are all working. So yeah, I just wanted to share with you that. See my I'm not going to say that I invented that, I didn't invent air fresheners or an air freshener device. No, I just invented, this is just my invention. That wasn't built from I didn't build these fans from a set of instructions or a kit or anything like that. I didn't build it from I just basically designed and thought that particular model up myself. It's not, as I say, like following any instructions or anything. I just designed it off my own sort of thought. Anyway, I'm going on. I'm just going to now get this video joined on to the footage where you'll see me taking Fan 11 apart if you want to see it, see what's inside it, etc. Okay. Thanks for watching that bit. Okay, right, now what I've done is I've just rigged up this camera I basically strapped it to my chest, so this is the best I could do at the moment. I've not got any fancy equipment, so this is Fan 11. The motor's burned out. It's going to be getting an upgraded motor. It was built, I built that in 1997, summer 1997, in fact, dates will be bad. 1st October 1997. Well, it was built just a bit before that. Bit of month before it. So this is the motor. Well, I've got a stockpile on. Yeah, that's the original motor. That's the original type of motor. But it's not that torquey on the starter, so it needs to get a bump start now and again. Just turn the blades just to get them to start. And they don't last as long. But that was the motor I built that fan with originally. So I'm going to upgrade it to this type, slightly torqueier. Hopefully last a wee bit longer. So let's get on with it. First thing I'll do is get the back off. Flat screwdriver. This is just hardwood going into the wooden blocks that are inside. Fixing blocks that holds everything together. So that's the back off. This is basically the main structure of these blocks. One right the length of it, and everything's fit. Fixing blocks. Everything's fixed, screwed together with these blocks. Right. Next thing I'm going to do is get the front of it. But I've got to get access to the motor. It's flat Phillips. Flat screwdriver. Steady. Now this fan sat in the cupboard for, well, it was built in 1997. It was used right up until 2003, and then it sat in the cupboard for many years, right up until 2019 October. But then No, actually, no, it was last year. It was the other one that sat. No, this one sat in the cupboard right from 2003 to right up until 2020. And then the original motor was, well, the motor that was in it lasted a while. And it burnt out, and I replaced the motor just a few months back, just for it to burn out again. So I'm going to update it. That's the front. And that's the dress strip that's came apart, so I'm going to have to fix that back on the front. We'll see that when I get on to that. So that's basically the blades. Now I've got to try and remember what way this thing turns, so I'm going to have to power it back up again. Find out, because it doesn't work very well, but there might just be enough power in it to. I can't remember what way of. See, the wires doesn't necessarily mean that that's the way that it's going to turn, because the motors are different for some reason. So I'm going to have to get that hooked up again. Right, I've nipped down the stair and got the power pack. This is the type of power pack that is. And the wire with the grey bit on it, that's the positive. And the one that's just black all around is the negative. So it's plugged in. No, actually no. Not yet. I've marked it out here. It's the orange wires are positive. Orange wires positive, so it goes to this grey bit, this grey one, with the wire with the grey and black. Screwdriver. Grey wires negative. That's the power on light, power on the LED light. Switch it on, kaboom, bang! Right, so there's absolutely nothing in it, it's totally, but there's a wee bit of, yeah, see it's wanting to go anti-clockwise, I don't know if you've seen that. Yeah, see that? So it was anti-clockwise. Yeah. There's more resistance going that way, so it's definitely anti-clockwise for the air direction, the directional flow of the air. Right, so let's get this. Okay. So it's disconnected. These voltages, by the way, it's very low voltage. And this, there's no power in that. Well, there's power, but even when it's a healthy motor, there's not enough power in there to chop your fingers off or anything like that. Because I built the thing and I know what the performance is like on it. It's a low power motor, low voltages, so I'm not wearing gloves or anything like that, insulated gloves. I don't need to, this isn't going to chop my fingers off, it's just plastic and it's there's no torque, there's very little torque, it's just a small motor, low voltage. There's no, it won't do you really any harm at all. Otherwise, you'd isolate the whole thing and you wouldn't work with it. I think it was potentially, you know, could chop your fingers off, you wouldn't be doing that and putting the power on. But I built it, so I know exactly the capabilities of it, and there's no harm at all in what I'm doing. It's all low voltage stuff. I built it when I was at the school. Well, actually, no, this was built after I left the school. I left the school in 1992, but I'd built fans when I was 12, 13, back in 1988. It's the first ones I built. But anyway, I'll talk about that later. It's just focus on what I'm doing here. Right, so that's... So I'll get the blades off. Just glue together. Disconnect the switches, because the base has got to come off this fan, and just unscrew. Oh, wait a minute now, I was thinking about this. Do I really need to do that? Probably not, just had a thought. I remember how I built this thing now. I don't need to take switches off. I just take the whole, just drop this whole panel. Screw that back on again. This whole panel will drop. So, that's if I make a dress strip, this rectangle bit. Put the screws out of the way. Yeah, that whole panel will just drop. And I lift the base off. So I'll get the screws off here. Flat screws. They're a bit longer, these screws, so I'll keep them separate. I maybe should have designed this with Phillips screws, because the flat ones tend to round after a while. Now get these drawing pins out that hold this inner panel, all this stuff, as you'll see in a minute when I take them off. You know, it's attached to the top of the fan, so it's like an inner paneling. It's just made from cardboard. The wood's made, the inner panel is just cardboard paneling. It's just to hide the wires and tidy it up and gives the airflow a clean run. It sucks it from the back, pushes the air through the front. Some on the back as well. So the vents, on the back here, the air gets sucked through these vents at the back, through these channels and out through the front. The air fresheners sit within the airflow, and hence your air freshener basically gets blown out through the front. The smell, the scent gets blown through the front. It's Magic 3 car air fresheners that I used, and they do the job. I felt that thing coming apart, so that top should just lift off. I'll show you what it looks like. From the front, you'll see what I mean with it. See, that's what these bits here, the lugs that I designed, gets drawn pinned onto this block, the fixing block. These fixing blocks hold everything together, and there's drawn pins that lock all that to the inside of here. Okay, so, and that's the the switch panel, switch and light panel. All the wires and everything that just get channeled in, resistors and everything in. All the resistors and connector block circuitry is under this floor. It's like that's the base, and there's a second base, and the resistors and connector blocks and wires, circuits are in there. Well, the circuitry is like the wires connecting up the resistors. That's the circuit diagram that I designed from the physics knowledge that I learnt from the school. It's very basic. So I designed them. I designed my own type of fans since I was 13 actually. It was the later part of 1988. In fact, it was the 4th of October 1988, the very first fan I built. I called it the click fan because it made a clicking sound every time it turned round. But I'll go into all that detail later, and then maybe another video or something. But I'm going to get on with this. So we're going to get the motor detached from the bracket. Now this is fixed with sellotape, an elastic band to tighten it on, and then there's the insulating tape, which is the main fastener to it, and then there's just the sellotape that initially holds it in place before the main insulating tape goes on it. So I'll just remove that. Very good scissors. Can't get the big, just get it started. So I'll get these air fresheners out the road. And there's a better. Just clipped onto the bracket for the air freshener. That just goes on one side, and the circuit diagram goes on the other using this staple paper clip, which fits onto here. I'll get that out of the road just now. Just remove this file on the phone for the memory files. I've added an extra light. The lamp. Try and give you a bit more light. Give me a bit more light to see what I'm doing. Just for the the shadow into the dark area. So try and get that. No, wait a minute, it's maybe not such a good idea because on the camera and the playback it's shown as a shadow. Right. Well, I was doing that before I had to stop. I was getting this motor off, wasn't it? So I'll get this is just the final layer of sellotape, and then the tensioner band. This is basically just 2 elastic bands. Keep this tight. I'll just pry that off a wee bit. Just enough to get the screw. Let's get the scissors in there, cut that. This first layer of insulating tape. And the second layer as well. And that's the initial sellotape. It's just the sellotape is put on first just to hold that in place before I put the main insulated tape around it to lock it in place, and then I tension it with the two elastic bands, and then I put a final layer of sellotape over that. Now, like I say, they're not high power motors, so I've marked orange wire to go on this side. That's the orientation. However, it doesn't always work that way. I could do the same with the other motor and it might still spin the opposite way. So I'll cut them wires off now. Or actually no, for a better idea I'm going to desolder it. That means I'm going to have to tin it again, so let's switch on the soldering bolt. So maybe had that on already, get it warmed up. Now with these things you've obviously got to be careful what you're doing with them, because they do get very hot. So this is how the motor fixes to the bracket basically. This is a cutout that I've allowed for the motor to sit on, and the wires just get trunked through this trunking that I made, and just goes through there and then out the back and into this wiring bundle of, well, like a harness if you like, where it meets the rest of the circuitry. So I'll pause this a moment until this soldering bolt heats up. I do a lot of practice with soldering, and used to do it all the time. I was at the TSI training services and everything, and worked for Empire, but that's a long time ago. Yeah, that's hot enough. So you should use goggles, because this stuff does spurt a bolt, and if it goes in your eye, well, just imagine what molten hot solder would be like going in your eye. So, better wearing goggles, eh? So I'm going to desolder this. Right. Like I say, that stuff does sort of spurt up. I think that's something to do with the flux that's in it or something. So I really strongly recommend that you wear goggles if you're going to be soldering. Now that's the old motor out. I'm going to upgrade this. That's the original type of motor. I'm going to get a bigger motor in. But the problem is, will it fit? Because the thing is, there's not going to be much clearance for the blades with the rest of the, you know, because it's higher, the blades are going to be sitting higher. So I don't know if there's going to be enough clearance. What I might do is actually, I'm just going to temporarily, see, it fits right onto the back here. It's taking up a lot more room than I thought. Alright, hold on. Now, so you can see the differences. See, it's sitting higher, and that's because it's a bigger diameter, and that may cause a problem with the clearance with the blades within the casing, within the shrouding. So I don't know, might just have to put the original type of motor back in. So what I've done is I've just sort of put a wee bit of tape on it just to hold it in place, just to see if it's going to clear. Yeah, I might just clear actually. The thing is, I'd have to move this motor in quite a bit, back in a bit, because the bit that I left is only really designed for the other motor. So I'll take off that. Blazer. Yeah, you can see what I mean. That's the original motor in position. Comes up to about there. Now this motor, as you can see, is physically bigger, so it's going to go further back. Now I've never modified this before. The only problem as well is that there's not going to be enough tape to cover the... Nah, I'm not sure. I'm not very happy about it. Yeah, what I'm going to do actually is maybe at a later stage I could modify the bracket. So the original motor's going to go, well, the original type of motor's going back in. But because I'm going to have like another fan, to be 3 fans in total, that's a soldering over. It'll take some of the workload off. So I'm just going to... This is new old stock for these motors for ages. So they're close to the same, they're virtually the same. I don't want to get them mixed up though. That's the old one there, so I'll put this. Right, what I'll do is I'll tin that with solder. Cut this off. Set that there. Soldering rope, goggles on. It's not the best. And a bit rusty yet, well, a big bit rusty. I haven't soldered for a very long time. It's just going to have to do anyway. It's good enough for me, as long as it works. As I say, there's no high voltages involved in it, it's just low power. Just want the wire on, so I'll solder it. Is that one on? Perfect. Alright. wee bit of tape just to lock this in place for a moment. Right on the subject here. Solder on. There's a wee test, see that's going the right direction. Solder knot. Power on light. Yeah, anti-clockwise. So it's good anti-clockwise. That's good. That's the direction we want it in. Right, so now I'll get this motor fixed in position permanently now. Disconnect that soldering bolt, I don't need that. So obviously if you're working next to flammable stuff like furniture and cloths and that, you just got to be very wary. Save this memory for a minute. Okay, so I've unplugged the fan. Even though it's low voltage, you still don't want to short wires out because it could, you don't want to short anything out, no matter what the voltages are, because it just damages components. Right, so the first thing I'll do is I'll put on the initial sellotape just to lock it in place. Just a wee bit, that's all I need. Yeah, I might have to trim the sellotape down a bit because it's a bit wider. A bit too wide, so I'll just trim it down a wee bit. Yeah, I'm not happy with that one. Do it again. In the end, I didn't really trim it down and just basically just fold it in anyway. Just put it in and just fold it in. Now that that's in there temporarily, I could just sort of do the final tuning of getting that motor in position. And then, so it's pretty much centre square and it's flush with that bracket. Then I'll put the final, or the main insulating tape to good insulating tape stuff, good quality stuff, because it's got to last, you see. There's no point getting cheap stuff, so it's fairly decent stuff like that I'm using. Same with the sellotape, there's no point using the cheap sellotape because it's got to do. It's got to last a while. It's a bit of a job having to take this thing apart to redo it, so it's got to be decent stuff. Yeah, that's fairly. So I've got to make sure there's nothing here that sticks out in the front, because I'll just catch the blades and makes a noise. That's the insulating tape on it, and I'll give it a wee bit of tensioner, just to put a bit. I'll renew the elastic bands, I'll put these new ones on. Give them 3, maybe 4 turns. Really tight. Without trying to get rid of the twists, so it's 4 times. So that really locks that in place. The other motor would have been a bit too big. The bracket bit sticking out wasn't really long enough. I'd have to modify that, do that at a later date. I'll see what I'll get on with that motor. Besides, I'll do the other fans to supplement it, because I'm reinstating another fan. But I'll either put this on the introduction of this video or at the end, one of the two, but just not at this stage, because I just want to get this in. This part of the video is just all about getting this motor replaced, and you get to see the insides and that. So this is the final dress strip of sellotape to go around, just to hold the motor in, back to keep the elastic bands in place. Again, I'm not going to bother trimming it, it's a wee bit, the sellotape's a bit wide, but I could sort of like cut a wee bit off at the front and just trim it down a bit. Tuck it in so I don't start touching the blades, because you've got it'll make a noise. I'm not happy with that. I'm going to trim it a bit better now. It would just mean then I would have to take the front off again, take the blades off and trim it if it starts to make a noise. So as well just doing it properly now, and saves us having to do it later, because that will just peel back through time. So if it's been trimmed, there's nothing to peel back. So that's the saves having to do it. You know, it'll hold for a wee bit, and then once it starts to lose its adhesiveness, then it'll just come to touching the blades, and so as well just getting it all trimmed. It's the best I could do at the moment anyway. I'll just have to do it. Right, so that's the motor installed, wired up correctly, tested. Put the blades back on. It's the push fit blades. So I don't want to push them to the bottom all too much, just enough so they don't come off. No, but, well, I can't imagine anybody else having this particular type of fan, because it was me who built it and designed it, and I built it just from scratch. It's not to resemble anything else, it's just my invention. But I'd be very surprised if there was another model of fan like this anywhere in the world. But it does work, and it's my invention, and I'm happy with it. So the next task would be to fit the top back on, start reassembling it. Right. This is actually when the motor was last done. On the 21st of November 2020, I replaced that last. And before that, it was the 12th of April 2003. So it lasted, although it was it was actually stored away in a cupboard for many, many years. Right, let's get this front, let's get the top on. So I done all this, got all the wood and that from various places. At the time it was B&Q at South Road. That's when there was one there, many, many years ago. And there was Maplin Electronics in the Wellgate. Dundee's Wellgate Shopping Centre. Tandy Electric. It's going back to the late 80s, early 90s. That's where I got a lot of my components from. I mean, obviously this is really basic, but electrically it's, you know, something that I built, so designed, built, and it works for me. It does actually produce a scent. Throwing pins in here. Try and get you to see that. So that's where it locks the channeling, the inner channeling for the air deflectors. We get thrown pinned onto these fixing blocks, and at these places here, just where putting them in. It's the back ones done. And the front ones, there's two that go under here. I'm trying to find the original hole for it. No, that wasn't it. So there. Goes in much easier when you put them through the original, back in the original holes. Put the drawn pins back in the original holes, it's so much easier than having to refit them. But I'll hold this one. There we go. That's it. It's the bottom one's in, I'll get there. Side ones in, front side ones. Gosh. See, my fingers in that are fairly thin, so I mean, I've got large hands, but my fingers are fairly thin to get into these smaller spaces. Now, if you had big, fat fingers, you would really struggle with this. That's it. So now, screws in fully now. Just one at each corner on the bottom. Flat screws. Wood screws. Countersunk wood screws. Maybe get rid of that actually. Sharper. It's an old fan, so the coating on the wood's been chipped over the years. The other fans that you'll see, I'll explain the ones that are better quality, were made out of hardwood, didn't have that problem. So, I mean, this has actually been filmed first, so the start of the video, the introduction, will be done later. And the ending will be done after this. This section has been done first. So, I don't know what order I'm going to make the video in yet. If it's going to be showing the photos at the start of the video, or at the end, or what, I don't know. But I just don't even care about putting this online yet until I've actually saw it back, played it back. And then if this bit's okay, then I'll start getting all the rest of the video compiled for it. Now, what I've done is I've put the switch panel in, the switch panel, the upper switch panel, that's this bit here. That's the dress strip that goes on. Usually you get the marks it, tell you where around it goes. It doesn't really matter actually, because it's not sided, so it doesn't matter. This badge, by the way, was part of NCR. But I just took away the N to leave my initials, CR. But all these labels are starting to peel and go yellow and everything. I mean, that's what happens with paper when it's exposed to the air, etc. It ages. Although that isn't paper, that's again plastic, but there is paper there coated with sellotape. This fan hasn't been restored either, this is just in its original condition. It was fan 8 that had a complete restoration job done on it back in 2019 October. Now we've got to fix the front on this, because when this was being bump started, as I call it, because you're bump starting the motor, this dress strip had been knocked off accidentally, so it's quite easy to fit. It just goes in, slides in there basically. That's all it needs, because this won't be getting touched or anything. It shouldn't be getting touched. So it just slides in like that. That's it. Right, the front one. Pause this a moment. Okay, so let's get the front on now. It's just 4 screws, flat screws, each corner, 4 wood flat screws, wood screws that are countersunk, flat edge. And as you know, they just get screwed into the fixing block. The fixing blocks at each corner. You should actually, like, if you're tightening up things like that, similar to that, if you're tightening the wheel up on a car, just tighten them in the diagonal diagonally. So tighten that one, then that one, then that one, then that one. That's what you should do, really, just so it doesn't warp. It's like that with a car wheel. Equally spreads the torque over the wheel, doesn't warp it. It's just a practice, it's good practice, that's all. No, I think that's it. We'll just check everything over. All the screws are in. The front's fixed. I'll make sure that, because there might be a wee bit of clearance issues, I'll just plug it in and give it a go. So that's power light on. It's set on the slow speed. That's slow speed. The fast speed. Okay. Like I say, there's low voltages in here. It's very low voltage, low hazard. There's no any fatal voltages in this. So that's why I've not got any insulated tools, gloves, or anything like that. It's not mains voltage. The only mains voltage part is the power supply, but that gets transformed down before it goes anywhere near this. This is all low voltage stuff, so there's no any risk. That's I built it. I know exactly the voltages that are in it. If you were ever unsure of anything like that, you would never risk it. You would just assume that it's high voltage. But I know this because I built it. So, and the power in that blades that will not chop your fingers off because there's not enough power in it to do it. It wouldn't even do you any harm. In fact, it would just do that more harm than anything else. So it's that's not lethal. Right. Well, that's pretty much it. Just stick the back on. So the back comes off regularly to change the air fresheners every 3 months. Also just to give it a wee clean out, the air channel on the inside. Because it'll obviously suck in the dust from the back. It's sucking the air. That's the way the direction of the blades are going. That's where it's got to go in the right direction. It sucks the air in from the back through the channel, the cardboard channel that I made that you saw when I had it apart. Through the air fresheners, because the air fresheners are within the channeling. It's 2 Magic Tree air fresheners that go in. They're not going in just now because I'm going to have to replace them. And then the second comes out from the front. As I say, all these marks and everything is just through years of scores. That's just the way this one is. It's not the best of materials I use because it's a white coating that comes off over the years. But as I say, I haven't restored this one. It's not in its original. Sorry, it's not restored. It's still in its original condition. Okay. Just before I tidy up, the common causes of the failure to these motors is the brushes inside. They wear out the carbon brushes. In fact, what I'll do is I'll put the back off this and show you. Now these are just hobby motors, so this is on for continual use for hours, and they eventually just wear out. And to get the backs off them, you've got to pull these lugs back. Get a screwdriver and just prise them open. So I should just So there's a lot of carbon in there that makes a mess. That's the armature. It's a permanent magnet motor. Stator. Coil. That's what the brushes are. I think that's called a stator if I remember. In rusty as anything with my physics, no. I've got a good friend, and he's really good with this stuff. I was always interested in it, I still am, but it's just rusty, you know. That's the permanent magnets in there. Let me show you a bit better, look. And that's the brushes. Carbon brushes. They're just worn out. You see the carbon, like. So that's what puts the power to this armature through this stator. I think that's what it's called. Puts the power into there, and then it's electromagnetic coils, electromagnetism that spins within the magnet. I haven't even script. I don't know. I know how it works. It's this. There's an electro coil, but I'm not even going to attempt to explain it all now. I'm just showing you what's inside. And it fails because of the carbon brushes that just make a mess. So tidy that up. Okay. So there you go. You see what's inside one of these hobby motors. And to get in it, you just pull these lugs back. Just goes on like that. And you just put the lugs back down again. But this motor's finished, so it doesn't matter. Okay. Actually, I've took the back off again because I put the air fresheners back in. There's still a bit of life left in them. While the back's off, I might as well just show you the circuit diagram. I'll give you a bit more of a detail about the air freshener bracket. Now, to get the airflow around both sides, to get the maximum surface area of the air freshener, I've angled it like this. So when it's against here, it's clipped against this air channel, and the angle lets both sides of the air freshener be open to the airflow. And it's the same for the other side. I cut the air freshener in half, so one half goes in each of the channels, and it's got the bit coming out so that both sides you get the maximum surface area of the air freshener. And this is the circuit diagram. It's just basic for any electrician. It'd be adorable. For me, it was. I mean, I made this years ago, but I'm rusty now with my physics. But that's basically it's a very basic circuit diagram. Resistors, motor, light emitting diode, switches. Back diode for the LED. Okay. So I'll just put the back on again, and that'll be it. The next air freshener is due to be placed on the 25th of February. So there's 10 days left on that. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed the video. in case you're wondering where I used these fans, it was used in places like the kitchen, the living room, bedrooms, just places where it would benefit the scent from the car. Magic Tree air freshener hasn't got a nice scent. So they weren't for sale. I didn't sell them or anything like that. I just used them in the house basically for my own use. Yeah, it worked. So you've seen my invention. Well, thought I'd just show you that. Okay, thanks for watching. Okay, cheers, bye.